Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Amanda and today we are here with a gouache tutorial and I'm going to teach you how to paint this. So if you want to learn how to paint some mountains and sky, then keep on watching. Hi, I'm Amanda and here at ALLJArt we make mistakes, learn from them, encourage each other and grow together. So if you want to join in on the journey of becoming the artist that you want to be, then hit subscribe and the bell and come along for the ride. Let's get into the video, shall we? We have our supplies here. I'm not going to go through them all too in depth, but I have a paper towel to dab off my brush. I am going to switch to cloths as soon as these paper towels are done. Got quite a bit to go, but we'll see. I have a bunch of brushes as well. They are not too exciting. I've got some, that shouldn't be in there. I've got some Arteza, De La Rune, cheap brushes, craft brushes. They're all really cheap and cheerful brushes. And I'm not going to use all of those. I just like them in my stash. I have a pencil, just a Faber-Castell pencil, and I also have 3 colours. We're only going to need 3 colours for today's tutorial. I have a primary blue, a primary red and a permanent white. You don't have to have primary blue, primary, you can have whatever colour you want. These are warm colours though, so if you want it to be a warmer painting, then warmer will be the best situation for that. I also have a bit of paper here. This is acrylic paper. You can use any paper you want that you prefer to use with paint as long as it's quite a heavy weight. We don't need it to be too heavyweight because we're not going to use that much water today, but just whatever paper you like. And then I have a little roll of washi tape here just to tape down the edges, well not tape down the edges but to tape off the edges to make it a cleaner border basically. I also have 2 jars of water, one for clean and one for dirty, and then over here I have a palette. Sorry about the inconsistencies in brightness it seems. And I also have this camera so that you can see a side view because apparently that's what we do now. We have 50 million cameras. So don't worry about references. You can find them if it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, but you don't have to because what we're going to learn here is really easy, simple stuff. So you don't really need a reference. I am going to make it up as I go along. I'm going to just tape off the edges of this paper with this really cheap washi tape and hope that it holds up. So let me go ahead and do that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just want to have somewhat of a straight clean line here. There we go. I've got a nice clean border, although the washi tape is jagged on some bits, but that's fine. First thing that I'm going to do is mix my first colour. We're going to need all 3 of these. I'm just going to put them in the middle so that you can see them and hope that it's good. So we have a primary red, just going to stick a bit there. Primary blue, stick a bit at this side. And then I'm going to stick the white at the other side. You can use zinc white. I'm using permanent white just because it's the only one I have. I'm going to have to buy more white. But permanent white is more for highlights, whereas zinc white is more for mixing the colour. This is my first time using this camera, so I'm hoping that it's okay. I'm trying to figure out the settings, so yes. The first brush I want to use is a big one. Let's see. I'm going to use the biggest of the big. And I'm going to grab quite a big chunk of this red here. It's kind of pinky red, it's a really warm red, it's really nice. I like it. But I'm getting a big chunk here because we're going to mix in a tiny little bit of blue, not too much. It's going to be sort of purple to start with, but not too purple. I just want it to be kind of like that. And since this is gouache and it dries lighter if it's a dark colour than when you put it on, I'm going to just start really dark because I am going to add some white in pretty much straight away. Now this is really watery, actually a little bit more watery than my liking. I find it really hard to blend out when it's this watery. If it is too watery, you can just add more paint. But I'm going to add some white now to the mixture, like so. And what I love about doing these paint-ins is that you don't have to be accurate with it. You can make it up. See, I'm just making up this sort of scenario where there's pink and like a purpley sort of sunset, and then I'm going to make up the mountains as well. I'm going to not be too accurate, too right with it basically. I'm just going to do whatever I feel is fun, and that's what's great about it. Don't worry if it's streaky, that's actually good, because in skies it's nice to have a little bit of sort of cloud edge there, so add in some more white here. Now you can not go all the way down to the bottom where the mountains are. You'll actually have a better time if you do that, if you just stop where you want the sky to stop, but I like to go all the way down just so that it blends in nicely and I can pick up the colours underneath to sort of mix it in and make the painting a little bit more cohesive. So there we go. Now I'm going to actually wash off my brush in my dirty water container that you cannot see. Doesn't matter, it's just water, it's fine. And I'm going to dry it off a little bit and put it in the clean water, and then I'm going to just get the white. It's got a little bit of pink in it, that's fine. I'm just taking it from the other side, and I'm going to go all white from here. I'm going to go all the way down, and I'm going to add the white in here and blend it down. Blend it down so that it makes it nice and pastel-y colour. And don't worry, like I said, it dries darker, so it looks a bit scary just now, but it dries darker anyway. But this is just one of the best ways that I've found to make a gradient, and I'm leaving little gaps, it's fine, don't worry too much about it. Like I said, it's a sky, so it'll all blend in, and it's dandy, fine and dandy. There you go, you've made a masterpiece. I'm joking. I'm just going to dab in a little bit of white here. Since this is a long big flat brush, I'm just going to dab in the clouds here and there. They don't have to be perfectio, just dabbing them in. This is an angled brush, so it's a little bit annoying actually. But just grab a little bit more white paint and sweep it across where I want some clouds to be. And since it's nature, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, which I love about doing these little landscapes. If you're ever burnt out or stuck for what to draw one of these or paint one of these. They're really fun and easy to do, stress-free, so I'm just going to add that colour back in there a little bit more. I'm playing around with this a lot more than the last one. Now what you want to do is wait until that dries completely, because you don't want to put wet paint on wet paint because it will just blend in together and it'll look horrible. So you want to leave it until it dries completely. Gouache does lift up from the layers below. If you put layers on top of it and you're too aggressive with it, it does lift up, but you can get away with leaving it a little bit and not aggravating the colours underneath. So I'm going to leave that to dry. It's only been like a second and it's almost completely dry. The top is still a little bit wet, but we're going to be working with the bottom. So I want to do some mountains, and as you can see from my other paint-ins, the mountains are all different shapes and sizes, but they've all got a similar kind of look to them. So I'm just gonna do it from my head and pick something that I decide that I like. I've been doing a lot of coming from this side to make them larger at that side, but I kind of want to do it from this side at this time, so I'm just going to draw a light line along here, and I want another peak here, but I want this mountain to come in front of that, so I'm just going to draw a line down there and draw just a shape that suggests a mountain. And I'm also going to draw another line here because I want that one to come in front like that, and I want it to peak a little bit lower than that actually. So it's good with gouache, you can just lightly rub it and it will come off. Obviously you need to wait until it dries properly, otherwise you'll get what I just got then. But yeah, that seems like a good plan. I kind of want a closer up mountain somewhere. Actually, I think, okay, this one's going to be the closest one. I think I want this mountain to come in front of that one, so that one's in the distance, and then we'll have another peak here going along all the way. So again, no planning, just decided to do that. I'm a bit scared actually because I think I didn't leave it long enough to dry, because I just want to lightly erase that. Actually, where's my kneaded eraser? I'm just going to roll this over here just to pick up some of the pigment. Okay, so now, actually hold on, let me just change my battery real quick. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, my favourite one, which is actually a Rooney brush. I thought it was Winsor Newton. It's a flat shader. I don't know what size it is. This is all rubbing off, so I'm not sure what size it is, but I think it's like a really small one. Well, obviously it's a really small one. It looks like it, doesn't it? So I'm going to see if I can fix this part of the painting because it's really annoying me. So I'm just going to dip into that paint again, and I'm going to just put some paint here. Now remember, it dries darker, so don't be scared that it looks a little bit too light. It will darken up in a minute. I was going to say lighten up. No, it won't. It will darken up in a minute once that dries. So I'm going to rinse out my brush here. Just a little bit because we're dipping into the same colours anyway. I think I've given myself a little bit too much paint, but we're going to dip into primary blue and we're just going to mix in that colour to the red so that we can make the colour that I want, which is purple. I want these mountains to be purple. And since we are starting with the back mountains first, I always start with the back mountains. I want to add, hold on, just make sure that this paint is nice and mixed in. Get a little bit of water, just dipping into my clean water there just to get a little bit of water situation going on. And I'm going to grab this white and I'm just going to add that to the colour there. As you can see, it's a little bit more purple than the sky was. I just wanted it to be purple, so you can make it any colour you want. You don't actually have to make it these colours, you can just be as creative as you want, and I think it always looks good, doesn't matter what you do. So you can do this technique with anything, and instead of white, if you want this to fade into like a purple or a yellow or something like that, you just add in a little bit of white and then you build the colour up from the bottom and work it into the other paint there. So it's pretty easy, pretty simple. Just gonna make sure that this is the colour that I want it to be. And remember, it's gonna dry a little bit lighter than it is because it's a darker colour. Or maybe it will dry darker, I have no idea. Gouache is a wonderful thing. And of course, whoever decided to do the yards. We don't call them yards here, we just call them gardens, but never mind. Okay, so we want this colour to go in the backmost mountain. So whatever mountain you want to be the backmost mountain, you're going to do it. In fact, I kind of want to use a different, I'm going to leave that paintbrush there. I want to use a different paintbrush because this is actually a lot smaller than it was before, so I'm not going to be able to get in there with that paintbrush. I'm just going to use this one, which is a really old one from a craft set that I had. Just get the paint, make sure it's flat, and I'm going to paint. I'm scared. Don't be scared, it's fine, I say to myself. Just fill in the shapes. Now because this mountain is so small, or you can only see a little bit of it, I'm not going to do any gradient there or whatever. I'm just going to leave it as is and just have it be that colour. But with the closer mountains you want to do a little gradient, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. But we're going to just fill in this nice and simple. Last one here. And that's the back mountain done already, and because this is gouache you can go right in and do the next mountain, which is going to be this one here. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to make it a little bit darker, and a little bit more red just to make it a little bit darker than it was. I think I'm going to stick with this brush actually, because I like it. And then I'm just going to go in to the very tip of the mountain. I'm not going to touch the bottoms of it yet. I am going to go past this a little teeny bit and past the sides here a little bit. And just bring it down a tad so that it looks like a little mountain top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this colour and mix it in with the previous light colour. So I'm just taking this colour, mixing it in a little bit to make it slightly lighter than it is. I'm going to fill the rest of the mountain in here. Now don't worry if you're like it's not blending, what's it doing? It's fine, we're going to blend it in a second. I'm just going to put this in here. I think I actually might want those mountains in the back to be a little bit lighter, but it's fine. Okay, and now I'm going to wash off my brush completely. Make sure that all the paint is off. Gouache is really hard to get out of brushes, so I like to give it a good rumble on the bottom. This is why I like craft brushes, because you don't have to be too careful with them. Okay, and now I'm going to go in to nothing. I'm going to just dry this. Dry this off on my thing so that it's damp to the touch but still feels a little bit dry. And then I'm going to blend these two colours together really lightly. So not too much, just a tad, so that they kind of blend in a little bit. And I think my brush is actually a little bit too dry, like so. So this colour should actually be a little bit lighter. I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm going to add in a little bit of light colour, but obviously just wait until it dries. But I know for a fact that's going to dry too dark, so I am going to put this in here just to give it a little bit of a lighter colour. I'm going to come back in here, back in this colour, put that in like so. Okay, so we'll see how that dries. Now the next mountain is this big boy here, so I'm going to add in a little bit more primary blue. Almost all of it, since we're getting to the end here. Just just mix it in so that it's nice and dark. Not too dark though, because we want the front mountain to be the darkest. Now, once that's all nice and mixed up and you've got it the colour you want it, I'm going to do the exact same with this mountain here. I'm going to come along the mountain edge with this colour. And again, I'm not being too careful because it's a mountain. Mountains aren't straight. You can make straight mountains for stylistic choice, but I like to have jaggy mountains, so. Or is that just an excuse for my wobbly-handed? Who knows? Nobody will know. So I'm bringing this down a little bit further because I know that once you start blending it in, it's gonna go up a little bit. The light is gonna eat into that dark. Wash off my brush just a tad because there was a bit too much paint on there, and I'm gonna blend these two colours together so that it's a little bit lighter too. Like so. And then I'm gonna just touch the edge of that colour to that one and finish off the mountain. The good thing about flats is that you can just go whoop and get a really clean edge. You can do that with rounds as well, but it's easier to do it with a flat. I was going to change brushes, but because it's still got pink on it, I'm not going to do that. Just fill it in so that it's nice and smooth. Doesn't have to be too smooth though. It's a mountain, like I said. It can be as rough house as you want. Just filling that in just to make sure it is filled in, and I'm actually gonna leave that to dry a little bit. Those two colours to dry a little bit, and we're gonna make the darker colour. So I'm gonna stick all of the primary blue in here. And I've actually ran out of primary red, so let me get some of that. You don't really want any white in this, but because there's white in the mixture already, there is white. You want this to be the darkest colour possible, but I think we're just going to go for this dark. We don't need to have it too dark. And this is just going to be this one colour. It doesn't have to be any gradiented colour or anything like that. So I'm just going to do a little line down here with this colour. This paintbrush is actually not the best paintbrush that I've tried in my life. It's quite rubbish actually, but doesn't really hold a very good point. I don't think we've mixed enough paint. Oh, there's still quite a bit there. Get that edge sorted. I'm going to actually put a little bit of water in this mixture just to loosen it up a little bit. Tiny bit more. You don't want to put too much water in it because if you've already put down a flat, thick layer, then it will look a different colour because you've watered it down, diluted it, made it lighter. So we're just covering it to the best of our ability, and then we'll probably go in with a darker colour in a sec once this is all covered and dry. Doesn't help that the white underneath is going to be mixing in with it too. Like I said, if you don't want that to happen, just don't put white at the bottom. Okay, we're going to wait for that to dry. It's going to dry really chunky. Not chunky, streaky, but it's fine. Now I'm going to do the gradient thing here. So I'm just going to clean off this brush and chuck it in the bin. Not really. I'm just going to not use it just now. How long was my top camera not recording for, huh? At least we've still got this one. Wow. This video was a disaster. Okay. At least we've still got the audio for that one too, jeez. I'm annoyed at myself. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go in with a damp, clean brush and go back and forth motion with this to blend it in a little bit. Go back the way like so, and then I'm gonna sweep it across up the way like that, and that's blended it in a little bit, so that's good. Now for this, since that's a little bit more dry, I'm gonna make a bit more paint. So I'm gonna shove more primary red. I'm gonna have to go and buy more paint, jeez, soon. I'm gonna just shove that all in there. You know what I should have done? I should have mixed this in with just the primary red, the primary blue, not the white parts. But it's fine, it's still dark enough. Right, and then we're gonna put in some water to loosen it up a little bit. Loosey goosey. I'm a weirdo, we know this. Okay. Now this is a completely different colour from that, but it's fine. I'm just gonna cover it all. It's actually a little bit closer to this in tone, which I like. So, and since there's a colour underneath, like I said, you want to go really fast. You don't want to go over it too much. But that's the effect that I was looking for the first time. Like I said, it's just all about practice with the consistency. You're going to find the consistency that you want by just making paint and putting it on the paper. You're not going to find it by looking at books and videos, but I appreciate you looking at this video and I hope that you learned something from it. Okay, so I really hate that there's a little bump there, but I'm going to leave that just because I don't think that it would... Maybe I could blend it out a little bit. It's gouache, it can be manipulated if you don't like something. There we go. Okay, I still think that these distant mountains are a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to go over with the little bit of white that I have left. It's not pure white, but it is whiter or lighter than the mountains in the background, and I'm just going to quickly put those in. Quickly and carefully. Again, I probably should be using a smaller brush for this, but never mind. They're just supposed to be lighter because they're way, way, way off in the distance. That whole camera thing shutting off. This is why I like to have the camera sounds on, Dad. We were talking about that when we went on a little trip. He doesn't like having the camera sounds on. I like having them on when I'm recording because then I can hear if my camera shuts off or not. And I didn't hear it then, so that sucks. There we go. The last thing to do is to let that dry, and don't go anywhere because we're going to do the satisfying part next, so stay tuned for that. Okay, actually, hello, I'm back. I'm going to turn this upside down, and there's a little bit that I put my finger on that lifted up. So I'm just going to put some clouds in here real quick, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I just got the mixture that was there left, and I'm just putting in some little clouds here and there. And all I'm doing is sweeping my brush, not even barely touching the paper, across, and putting in some dainty little clouds. Just leaving gaps, natural gaps, where my hand decides to leave them, just to blend that bit in a little bit and make it a little bit, look how dark that's going. You can barely see it, which is fine. That's what we want. Put a bigger cloud up here. I want this all to be white actually. Well, not white, but this colour. Okay, get a little bit of white here. Put that in too. I'm just brushing the top, so it's like kind of a dry brush effect. Just to make little clouds. Just because that one bit was annoying me. So barely any water here, just paint picked up from the palette that we have left. And you can mess about with this as much as you want. You can put as much clouds in it as you want. There's no reference here, we're just doing what we want. There we go. Actually, I kind of want one here too. There! Perfecto. Alright, because I'm so impatient and don't want to wait for this to dry, I'm going to do the satisfying bit now. So, ta-da! It's not as satisfying when it's not as flat, but it's fine. Take this bottom one off too. It's not satisfying when it's jiggling around either, is it? There we have it, our mountain and sky. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to comment, like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for your support, and I will see you next time. Bye!